let's talk. What I would like to find out first and foremost is, can you tell me and us about what your party stands for generally? Because we might not necessarily know that.
Well, look, first of all, it's a delight to be on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming to see me here in Cardiff Bay. And as the leader of the Welsh Conservatives, I want to say that we've got people from all sorts of different backgrounds in our party, but we have the one thing we all have in common is we believe in personal freedom, personal responsibility, as much choice as possible, low taxes, getting government off people's back so that they can get on with their lives, right? So that's the Conservative Party's philosophy here in Wales and generally in Conservative parties around the world.
So with Wales' perspective, what is the thing that stands out? What do you want to do in Wales? Obviously, in your manifesto, we know that pretty much everyone wants to fix their NHS and wants to do something about the cost of living. But what is different from the Conservatives' point of view? What can you do different?
Well, if we start with the cost of living, we've made a very clear commitment to cut a penny off the basic rate of income tax. So that would save the average working family here in Wales about £450 per year. In addition to that, we want to cap council tax rises because they've been hiked by huge amounts in recent years across Wales, gone up by far more than the rate that they have over the border in England. And that's because in England, they've had a council tax cap, which has stopped councils from excessively hiking people's bills. And if councils want to raise more money, they can, but they have to ask permission from the people via a local referendum. So that's our policy. And then in addition to that, of course, we want to extend access to free childcare for working mums and dads. So we want to give them not only up to 30 hours a week of free childcare, but also a choice so that if they don't want to place their child in a traditional childcare placement, they can actually pay a grandparent to look after their children instead, up to £4,800 per year. So those are practical measures which are affordable, which would make a lot of difference to people's pockets. So that's on the cost of living, right?
Yeah.
And you touched on the NHS as well. Now, everybody's worried about the NHS. I represent an area in North Wales, and our health board in that area has been in what we call special measures because it's failing for the best part of 10 years. So we see the crisis in our NHS every single day. I mean, if anybody in Wales wants to phone for an ambulance, generally there's just a 1 in 2 chance of it turning up within its target time. If they manage to get to the A&E department, very often they're sat outside that department in an ambulance for a very long time before they're able to get in. And if they're in, they wait a very long time on plastic chairs or in corridors or in cupboards to get their treatment rather than a hospital bed. So it's not good enough. We need to change things. And this is in spite of the hard work of frontline NHS staff. So the NHS is in a crisis in Wales. And what we've said is we need to pull the ripcord. We need to declare a health emergency, just like we did as a nation during the COVID pandemic. And that would then allow the government to instruct the health boards across Wales to surge the number of hospital beds in order to make sure that those beds can meet the demands which are being placed upon the service. The Royal College of Emergency Medicine estimated that last year around 1,000 people in Wales lost their lives because of excessive waits in our emergency departments. I'm not prepared to tolerate that anymore, and that's why we must declare a health emergency. Now, of course, the Labour government doesn't want to declare a health emergency because it regards that as an acknowledgement of its failure to manage the NHS well. I think that unless you recognise that there is an emergency and that something is broken, you're never going to fix it. So that's the situation we're in.
I'm just smiling because I literally just came back from Poland where I unfortunately ended up in a hospital. And there is one thing that we all, as nations of certain part of the world, why there isn't more preventative medicine in this country?
Yeah, well, look, we've got a primary care service with our GPs and our dentists, which are also under pressure. Most people can't register with an NHS dentist in Wales. I mean, it's like trying to find hen's teeth or a needle in the haystack, trying to find a dentist to register with. And our GPs are under pressure too. And a large part of that pressure is in the system is because people are waiting too long for treatment. So they're making repeated visits to the GPs to manage their conditions in the community, when if they just had their knee operation or hip operation or shoulder operation in good time without having to wait for 2 years plus, they wouldn't be making all of those appointments with the GPs and taking up their time and taking them away from the other day-to-day business that they might need to manage. So we have a system-wide problem. Of course, we need to take preventative measures. Of course, we need to take public health seriously, help people to get more exercise, especially people like me. But
I say nothing.
So we've got, we've got to do these things, but that takes a long time to feed through to your National Health Service. If you take action now on public health, it takes years before you reap the benefits. So what we need to do immediately is declare that health emergency.
Right. So let's go back to the original question. So we've spoken about cost of living. We've spoken about the NHS. What else? What is different about what your party want to do in Wales that isn't in anybody else's manifesto? This is Conservatives.
So we've got a huge focus on the economy because we want Wales to be a more prosperous nation. At the moment, it's the poorest nation in Great Britain. I'm not proud of that fact. We have the lowest wages on average in the whole of the UK. And I want to lift everybody's prosperity levels. So the Conservatives very much have a focus on making the economy better. How will we do that? Well, we want to support businesses to be able to create jobs. So we want to scrap business rates for small firms on our high streets, create extra free parking because we know that that's a tax on people going to the local shop. We don't want people to have to put up with that because it means it's not a level playing field with out-of-town shopping centres. We want to support our farmers and our rural community by investing more money into the agriculture budget, because we know that for every £1 that we invest as a government, there are many pounds that come back in terms of the rural economy. And another key pillar of our offer at this election is investing in roads, right? Because we know that we've got a congestion problem on some of our main road arteries in Wales. Just down the road, the M4 is choked up most days because it needs some relief. So we will build an M4 relief road here in South Wales. In North Wales, we'll upgrade the A55 to get rid of those pinch points and make sure that people can get to and from their destinations quickly. We'll scrap the ridiculous 20-mile-an-hour speed limits which the Labour government, with the support of Plaid Cymru and the Liberal Democrats, have imposed against the will of the people of Wales as a default speed. And we will also, in addition to that, help people to buy their own home. So a unique policy that we have to offer at this election is that we want to scrap stamp duty on people's main homes. It's a tax on people aspiring to get the keys to their own front door. One of the most exciting things for me when I was getting married and starting a family was to get the keys to my own front door, to realize that dream of having my own castle to live in, my own little house. I regard it as a castle. It had 2 little bedrooms on the end of a terrace. But for me, the pride in being able to do that was tremendous. And I want everybody to realize that dream. I want Wales to be a home-owning democracy. And we know that there are people who are stuck in homes that are too big, that are unsuitable for them, simply because the stamp duty is preventing them from downsizing. So we want to get more fluidity in that housing market, because every time someone moves house, not only are they able to get into a home that's suitable for them, but it gets the economy moving too, because they engage carpet fitters, kitchen fitters, bathroom fitters, plumbers, electricians, all of those tradespeople that then have an income that they can spend into the local economy. So this will really fire up the Welsh economy, get the Welsh dragon breathing again, so that we can create jobs, better wealth and prosperity in our country.
Okay, Now, the question that is very important to us, we do realise that Welsh Government doesn't have an immigration law. However, supporting immigrants is something that most of us are here, although some of us now have kids who were born here,
Yeah.
not necessarily with a British passport. So what is the party politics on that?
So look, I'm the son of an Irish immigrant, right? My mother was from Dublin. Three of my grandparents were Irish, and they came to the UK in the 1950s and 60s because of the terrible poverty that they were experiencing in Ireland, and they wanted a better life for the future. And they came here to work. They came here because they wanted a better future for their children. And I know that many people in the Polish community and in other communities have done that. And of course, most people did that when we were part of the European Union. We've now left the European Union, but there are still great opportunities, I think, for people to come and live and work and contribute to Wales. Now, when it comes to immigration, I want to make sure that we've got a balanced system. We've got a system that supports our country and respects our British social values too. And one of the things which I love about the people I've met from Poland over the years is that they tend to be very hardworking people, very dedicated to their local communities. They love their traditions, and they've integrated really well here into Wales. And I want to see, people who have settled be able to continue to contribute and enjoy being part of our society here.
But as the biggest minority in Wales and in this country, I'm talking not just a Polish minority, but EU minority, we are the minority that isn't supported. We do not. Normally, especially in my community, we are classed as other white, which then stops organizations getting some funding to help and support with for example, the problems that we experience with the settled status. Yes, there was support, but it wasn't necessarily support delivered in our language. And especially in Wales, we do not have any organization that supports Poles that is in any way or shape funded. Is there something that, as a party, you would consider doing in a way that other nations and other...
So let me be clear about this. The Welsh government is not responsible for immigration.
No, but for support.
Well, wait a minute. The Welsh government is not responsible for immigration, and it's therefore not the responsibility of the Welsh government to spend taxpayers' money, which is meant for our National Health Service, which is meant for our schools, which is meant for our roads and the other public services that the Welsh Government is responsible for on immigration-related matters. That's a responsibility of the UK government. And therefore, the UK government ought to make sure that there are adequate resources for people from all sorts of different communities to be able to get the support that they need. But it's not the responsibility of the Welsh Government. So I'm not going to promise something which is not the responsibility of the Welsh Government to anybody, because I think that's inappropriate.
However, the Welsh Government does support different communities, does support different organisations. The only part of this society is the EU nationals who are contributing more to the coffers than we take away.
And as I said, some of the hardest working people I know are people from the Polish community in my own constituency and in other parts of Wales. And I welcome that, right? Because it's brought life, great examples to people in our own communities who sometimes find it challenging, if you like, to be able to. We've got high levels of economic inactivity in Wales, and to see an industrious person living close to them in their community is a positive role model for them. So look, I want to make sure that people in Wales have high quality public services, but it's not the Welsh Government's responsibility to be spending on immigration matters. It really isn't.
Okay. So pretty much the last question. Is there something like a message or something you would like to put out there for our communities to say, you know, we are Conservatives that and ...
I think I'd say this. You know, there's a lot that people in Wales and Poland have in common. I love to celebrate our links. And I think that Polish values are very much conservative values. We believe in family, we believe in hard work, we believe in personal responsibility, we believe in freedom of choice, we believe in democracy. And we want to give people as much control over their lives as possible. What we don't like to see is governments that waste money when you're working hard to pay your taxes. So these are the things which are important to us as a Conservative Party. And of course, every Polish resident in Wales will have the opportunity to vote in the Senedd elections that take place on the 7th of May. And it's really important that they exercise their opportunity to vote. And I believe vote for a party which reflects their values. And if they want lower taxes, if they want a party that ends government waste and that fixes our public services, starting with the NHS, then they should vote Welsh Conservative.
Thank you very much.